It's Matty Fresh on the track up at State. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate, Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Dylan in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and balling like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
And welcome back to Booze, Bets, and Ball, a Penn State football podcast brought to you by Big Banter Sports. And we have a lot to talk about today, but I have to see what happened to Nelly first. Oh, his Wi-Fi sucks. Always an excuse. But anyway, we got a lot to get into here. Since we last spoke, Penn State, I guess, made the Peach Bowl against Ole Miss. Should be an interesting game. Slated for December 30th at noon, I'm pretty sure, in Atlanta. Yep. So that'll be a good one. Ole Miss, interesting team. These teams are 10 and 11 in the rankings, I'm pretty sure. So
precisely.
Yeah, under next year's playoff rules, Ole Miss would have been the final Power 5 team in, actually, because the 12th team is a group of the highest group of 5 team. So little interesting note there. But starting defense end, Chop Robinson's not playing. I don't think that's too much of a surprise there, but I don't know. You got any thoughts? I know we're going to get into this game down the road a little bit, but
yeah, I'm sure there will be more opt-outs. Ole Miss 10-2, just like Penn State. They had also 2 losses to very, very good schools. They lost to Georgia at 52-17 and lost to Alabama by 14. So, lost to a team in the playoffs and a team right on the cusp of the playoffs, but got blown out by Georgia, and that was the one Ole Miss game that I watched a lot, and it just didn't look like they were on the same league at all. So, seeing how that goes. But
yeah, in a way, they've kind of been the Penn State of the SEC lately. They kind of beat all the teams they're supposed to, lose to the teams they're supposed to, don't really overachieve, don't really underachieve. They're kind of the opposite in the fact of they rely on a really good offense and their defense is shaky, whereas Penn State relies on a really good defense and the offense is shaky. So it's an interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, but I'm sure we'll talk more. They do score a lot of points. They only won the Egg Bowl by 10, though. They've won a lot of close games. They beat A&M by 3, beat Auburn by 7, beat LSU, who's a very good team, by 6. So, they've had a lot more close games than Penn State has. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm sure in the next couple of weeks we'll look out more. But.
All right, well, he's here, so we're going to bring him. Oh, he left. What the hell? He just left. I don't know what his problem is. All right, I was about to bring him on. But anyway, we're going to get into sorry, he just texted me. But Penn State hired an offensive coordinator since we last spoke. I know we kind of hinted at it last time we were talking about the Kansas offensive coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki. I'm pretty sure is how you pronounce the last name. But a lot of experience, but not at a ton of big-time schools. When Penn State brought in Mike Yurcich, a lot of people liked the hire because he worked at Ohio State, he worked at Texas, he worked at Oklahoma State. Like, those are big name schools, big offensive schools. So it excited a lot of people. With Kotelnicki, you're like a bunch of Wisconsin community colleges, Buffalo, and now 2 years at Kansas. So it's not exactly the same resume as Yurcich, but a lot of people around the country seem to like the hire. He was just named the 247 Sports Offensive Coordinator of the Year. They averaged, I think, 33.4, 33.6 points per game this year. And that was with their star quarterback, Jalen Daniels, I think only playing 3 games. And then the backup, who isn't that bad either, he also missed some time. They played 1 or 2 games with a walk-on quarterback, I'm pretty sure. So, the fact they still put up decent numbers is a good sign. But I don't know what you think about this one. I'm done saying hires are good or bad because I think we all thought Yurcich was a home run and he was out of here, not on his own accord.
Yeah, I think the couple of things that Kotelnicki has going for him, that if you want to look at differences between him and Yurcich, he's been an offensive coordinator for a lot longer. Yurcich had, he had his time at Oklahoma State, but then at Texas and sort of at Ohio State for 1 year. And then he was like just the passing coordinator for 1 year. So he didn't quite have as much experience as Kotelnicki does. like you said, Kotelnicki, that's a fun name to say, I guess, has done a lot with very little, right? So he has taken Kansas to really strong scoring offense, really prolific kind of yardage offense. He did the similar with Buffalo. It took him a couple of years at least each time to get going. So that is a little bit concerning to me, but he's done it at stops where he did not have the talent that he will at Penn State. One more thing. Yeah. The one thing that I get a little bit, I don't know, nervous about, I guess, is when people post on Twitter all of the plays. It's all just gimmicky trick stuff. So I want to see more of kind of an understanding about what he does that are staples in the offense, right? Because it's not like a read option to a quarterback who throws it. That is not a staple of it. So getting into more of what the real scheme is and how he expects to win in the Big Ten and kind of have consistency in the Big Ten. I'd like to see more of that coming, and I'm sure we'll have that over the we have 9 months now of nothing. So,
yeah. The one thing that I saw some people concerned about, and maybe we'll see if they're right or wrong, is he's been with the same head coach for the majority of this in Lance Leopold. And now it comes down to who made who. You know what I mean? Like, because they've had pretty much success at stops. Not when people had success at. They were pretty good. They were a feisty team up at Buffalo, and they have Kansas winning 8 games a year, which never happens. So they've overachieved at places that don't win at all. And now it comes down to was the success a little bit of both of them? Was it all Leopold and Kotelnicki was just along for the ride, or was it 2016, 2017 where maybe Joe Moorhead should get more credit than James Franklin did? Is that this situation, in which case Penn State's in really good shape, or are they in really bad shape because it was actually Leopold? So that is one question I have, because all this has been pretty much with the same head coach. It's not like he's been in different systems with different coaches doing this stuff. It's pretty much been the same thing for the last decade.
Yeah. And I don't know. I want to believe that Leopold is, has his guys. I don't know who his defensive coordinator has been or is or whatever. And if it's a similar situation where he's got a guy for a long time, but Kotelnicki has been in that job for a very long time with Leopold, and he's either just like you're saying, he's either just a lackey who does whatever Leopold says, and he's Leopold is really the brains behind it all, or he brings a lot of value and creativity to the table, and he's going to do good things. So I'm hoping it's the latter, obviously. But.
Yeah. I guess we'll see. It's nice that he's going to be there for the bowl prep practices. I know that was very important. That's always been something that's been important with Franklin, is to, when he's had to hire new coordinators, especially on offense, to get it done before the bowl games, because those practices are really important. You get like 3 weeks worth of practice. So that's a lot. That's almost equivalent to the amount of time that fall camp is. So I think it's like a week less. So, there's a lot of time there. So that's good. Gets him comfortable with Aller, the running backs, keeps those guys out of the portal, hopefully. Maybe keep some guys from declaring if they were on the fence. Maybe I can improve my draft stock playing in this guy's system, that kind of stuff. So the earlier you make these moves, the better, obviously. But on the flip side, Franklin might have to start a new coordinator search in the not too distant future, because Manny Diaz's name continues to come up with Duke, and we're recording this on Wednesday night. And from what I've read from Duke insiders is that they expect to announce a new head coach by Friday. So this is probably going to come out Thursday morning. It might have come out. This news might come out by then. Maybe it is Diaz, maybe it's not, but he does seem to be the frequent name being brought up here. So obviously getting 2 years out of Manny Diaz, you can't really complain about that as being your defensive coordinator. But what does Penn State go from here? Because I don't know if Franklin has the time or the patience for another national search here.
Well, maybe you go take Elijah Robinson from Syracuse, even though he just got that 5 minutes ago, because like every A&M defensive lineman is in the portal, and that could be. But I don't know, where do you go from here? Maybe this is where he promotes internally, right? Even though we talked about that last week with respect to Sider maybe getting the nod on offensive side of the ball. But I don't want this to happen. Obviously, I think Manny Diaz has been absolutely a godsend for State in many ways and has really stabilized this team. Like if we had even a Brent Pry defense this year, maybe the drop out games would have been much closer. I guess, right? Maybe they wouldn't have lost any more games, but there would have been a lot more close calls. And just the aggressiveness and kind of the statistical performance that the defense this year put up has been amazing. And if he does leave, God bless him, because I mean, he deserves it, but I don't want it to happen.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised if he would take Duke. No one outside of Elko has won at Duke, really. I just think he's that good of a coach, and obviously A&M giving him a boatload of money signifies that. I thought maybe he'd hold out till next year and see what else becomes available, but I also don't know what Manny Diaz's ceiling as a head coach is right now. Obviously, a lot of people I think were turned off by what happened in Miami. Obviously, with the way things have gone with Crystal Ball, it may not have.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's maybe turned the narrative back in Diaz's favor a little bit, that maybe it's just Miami and it wasn't all him. So that might be helping him here. But I thought if that was the case, maybe he'd hold out on there another year, because once A&M filled up, there wasn't a lot of huge openings this year. Obviously, if there's still the chance that Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL, but like Michigan's not hiring Jim Harbaugh or Manny Diaz. So, like that's not, that wasn't something you think about. But next year, there could be some more openings at bigger schools that, maybe they'd have interest in him. So I was a little surprised that this might be the landing spot. I think he could do a little better than a basketball school, but if he wants to go back out there and prove himself as a head coach and then try to get a bigger job like that, I understand.
Yeah, it is a weird one, right? Like, because like you said, they don't have much history, obviously. Elko, greatest Duke coach of all time. Who? Steve Spurrier. Right. But they don't have a lot. But maybe the expectations aren't that high there too. I don't know that you'd want that as a coach, right? You don't want to be like, all right, well, whatever happens, and I'll never get fired. Right. But it's not the spotlight that he had on him at Miami, certainly. And is there a benefit to that? I don't know. But like, what kind of talent does Duke have now? They always seem to have halfway decent quarterbacks. But other than that, not a lot. Right. And you don't have Cutcliffe there, and you don't have Elko anymore. So you're going to be able to get a quarterback who's a strong NFL type pocket passer. And if you don't have that, then what do you have? So
Riley Leonard in the portal, either probably gonna end up at Notre Dame or Ohio State. So he doesn't have him next year.
Right. So maybe, I don't know. This is like just all obviously speculation and we're gonna talk him into turning it down or something like that, right? But you want him to stay.
Yeah, and I think the concern becomes him taking someone like Juwan Sider with him to be his offensive coordinator. We saw that with Brent Pry took Tyler Bowen with him. Penn State's really good tight end coach, a really good recruiter, made him his offensive coordinator. And this happened right after, or a year after Bowen was calling plays when they went through another offensive coordinator change. So it's kind of the same thing here. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, you want Diaz to land on his feet, but really don't want him to take anyone with him from this staff, because then James Franklin's in a lot more trouble, and so is this team. So that is the one thing to keep an eye on there.
What do we? I don't know. Can't say things that have been on the boards behind the paywalls or whatever. But has there been any rumblings about Sider not getting this job, and any concern or anything about him leaving? Or
I haven't seen anything. I don't know. I think you wouldn't hear anything until if Diaz did become the Duke head coach. But I know he was kind of brought up with the Syracuse offensive coordinator, and they hired the Giants running back coach or something like that, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, the going heavy Northeast influence with that Syracuse coaching staff, which is going to be interesting.
They're never going to be good again.
No, I don't think so. But they have an interesting staff they're putting together, and I don't think they're going to be a pain for Penn State in recruiting. But schools like Maryland, Rutgers, Boston College, Pitt, they're going to give them a little bit of a hard time, I think, more than they were in years past. So that is something to keep an eye on, obviously, especially with Penn State. Do they have Syracuse on the schedule in a few years, actually? I don't know. Did I make that up? I thought I saw, maybe not. But yeah, obviously you don't really play Syracuse. You're not too worried about them doing anything crazy.
We used to.
Yeah, did used to a lot. But so the transfer portal is also open. And man, if you need a quarterback, this is the year. I know. Remember when everyone was done with Clifford after 2020, and like every little quarterback.
Hold on. 2027 and 2028, we play Syracuse.
I thought so. Okay,
good job, you.
Yeah, but remember that every little quarterback down in the portal, everyone was like talking themselves into how he was better than Clifford, and he wasn't. Man, if Penn State needed a quarterback this year, it wouldn't be that bad, because I mean DJU is back in the portal now. You got
Cam
McCord, Dylan Gabriel, Riley Leonard. The list goes on. There's a lot of decent names in the portal this year. Interesting. Obviously, Penn State focusing mostly on receiver. I think they have 5 offers out to receivers right now. There's the Burks kid from Maryland, or from Purdue. The other kid,
2 kids from Indiana.
Yeah, the Indiana, the one was the quarterback at one point, turned a receiver. Jeremy Macklin's nephew, cousin, whichever it was, at North Texas. There's another one, and
the South Alabama kid too.
Yeah. And Julian Fleming's in the portal. So there's been quite the debate on Twitter about, should Penn State take him back? And my thought is yes. If he wants to come back here, you take him. I don't think he fixes your problems necessarily, but I think he's a step in the right direction. I don't think he's a number 1, but he has experience at Ohio State. He's just played behind 4 first-round pick receivers. I mean, let's be honest, that's not easy. He's apparently a really good run blocker, which Penn State could really use from its receivers. We saw the For the Bloggy thing that they had out at the beginning of the year, why Penn State wasn't having explosive runs. It was pretty much that no one downfield was blocking. So bringing him in could help with that. I'm not totally opposed to the idea. I know a lot of people are kind of done with the kid, mad at him, blah, 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 from everything that happened 4 years ago. I think probably need to get over it. And, if he wanted to come here, I'd be okay with it. But I don't think he's a number 1. I think he's a 2, maybe if you get 2 guys better than him, a 3. But I still think he's better than kind of what they have here right now.
I agree. And if, like you said, if nothing else, I mean, I would venture – and I bet a lot of money that the discipline in the Ohio State receiving room and the work ethic in the Ohio State receiving room is better than what it is in Penn State right now. And does he bring some stability to that? And he's an experienced guy too. He's been 4 years, right, in the Ohio State system. So is there a discipline? Is there a work ethic? Does he become a more natural leader than anything that we have now, even if he is not the fastest, most talented person in the room? I think that's extraordinarily valuable and something that sounds to be really lacking right now. So just with that, I think you bring him in. And fans are so dumb, right? And we're fans, I guess, and we're probably dumb too. But he didn't go here. Why? Who was on that team when he was a freshman? Who was on the Ohio State team when he was a freshman? It was Olave and Garrett Wilson, and I don't know, all of these guys. You're gonna follow those guys, right? It doesn't matter what state you live in. That was a better opportunity, and Heartline was an incredible recruiter at the time. So yeah, get over it. And you have a chance now, and let him come now, right? Let him do something useful for us.
Yeah, I don't think he's as athletic as Jamison Williams, but he's a pretty good example of someone who did nothing at Ohio State just because he was behind all these talented guys, goes down to Alabama, becomes their number 1. If he doesn't tear his ACL, maybe leads them to a national championship win. So I don't think it's that drastic of what we could see from him, but I think it's an example of just because these guys are behind generational first round talents, don't give up on them as players, because they may not be those guys, but they're probably better than what 80% of the country has. So that's kind of the way you have to look at it, I think.
Yep. Right now, he's ranked as the 4th best receiver in the portal by 24/7. Deion Burks from Purdue, I think he was offered too. Did you mention him?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I said he's from Maryland.
Sorry. So they got him. They got the kid from Vanderbilt is, I guess, going to
Georgia, I think.
Georgia. Yeah, he's the only one that's really locked in right now. So, oh, and then Tobias Merriweather is going to go to Washington. So, like, there's options out there, but they better move their butts, because it's gonna go quick. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Penn State didn't have that much movement on their own end. It was the backup punter, Baketta, which from what I read, that means Riley Thompson's getting a waiver to come back next year, which is good, I guess, because he wasn't that bad this year. I was a little worried about how he was going to be in the cold weather games with him coming from Florida, but I thought he did it.
We had like a 15-minute conversation.
We did, but
he punted 0 times. So that's
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the other thing. And then I was a little surprised that Christian Driver went in, just because of his dad's relationship with Franklin. I thought some of these other guys were more of locks to go in than him, but we'll see if anyone else follows him. And I don't even know if this kid was on scholarship. Jace Tutty went in. I think he's like an outside linebacker. I don't think he was on scholarship though. So you're down 2 scholarship guys as of right now. We'll see after the bowl game. A lot of the outside of Florida State and Ohio State, a lot of the New Year's Six teams, there hasn't been a lot of transfer movement, and most of that is because why would you not just go along for that ride first? Get all the perks of going to these big bowl games. If you win those games, you get a ring. So like, there's a lot of reasons to stick around until after those games. So maybe after the game you see a little more movement, but so far not a lot from Penn State. I know we talked about this last week. I expected a little more of the receiver room to clear out, but maybe if they get Fleming and one of these other guys we talked about, maybe that changes and these guys do start to clear out. But I guess that's gonna be more of a January conversation, I think, at this point.
Yeah. I'm just looking to see how many commits there are right now.
I think they have 25.
All right. So are you going to lose 25 guys to graduation and draft? I guess so. Right. So you don't have to make room for the class you have coming in anyway. That was the main point. But if you do want to go get 3 wide receivers and 3 defensive linemen and a linebacker and stuff, then you got to make some room. So I agree with you. I think that more people will leave afterwards. There's, I don't know, Malik Mega, right? Like, he's a freak athletically, but he's been here 3 years and hasn't seen the field. And I'm not sure what it makes us think he will, right? I'm sure, besides on special teams. So is he going to stick around? Is he going to try to find another opportunity? People like that, I think you'll start to see a little more drift. Now, what you don't want to do is lose some of the up and comers. Like, we just talk about wide receiver constantly, but Caden Saunders, you don't want him to go, right? You don't want either of the young tight ends to go, even if Warren and Theo Johnson stay another year. What else? Defensive side of the ball, the secondary, I think, can be very good, but the safety room is getting pretty crowded too. So you want them to all stay though, because they're good. So it will be interesting to see who leaves for playing time. And it is very interesting to see the dichotomy between the way that this team is not entered the portal and the way that Ohio State has had an exodus into the portal of pretty big name guys across the board, right? And freaking starting quarterback.
Yeah.
So what does that say culturally about Penn State versus Ohio State? Or even, I think we had discussion in our group chat about the talent behind the guys and the people who were starters this year being nervous about getting playing time next year, the highly ranked the high recruits getting playing time next year because what's behind them is so good. I still think that the Penn State situation is better because it looks like a panicky situation in Ohio State right now, especially when McCord leaves and you got Travion Henderson, right? Left I think today.
No, he's apparently rumored to be coming back, which I'm surprised about. I thought he was going to go to the NFL, but They're saying that's why they've had I think Mayan Williams declared the draft and
Yes.
that Chip Trainum and Evan Pryor entered the
Okay.
portal. So yeah, they've had a lot go on with the running back room.
So, that looks way worse, right? I think like and they'll fill it up with talent,
Right.
but they're losing a hell of a lot of experience there that
Yeah.
and I like the Penn State situation better because I do think James Franklin has built a very, very good culture here where the team they're a very strongly bonded group. Yeah. And that's
Mhm.
so we'll see what happens like Michigan State and others. Like it doesn't work to build a team out of the portal. And we've talked about this 100 times too. So you don't want that.
Yeah, Michigan State kind of back to having to be a portal team because when this coaching change happened for them, a lot of guys portaled out. They lost all their commits. So it is going to be like when Mel Tucker first got there again, and it's going to be a portal team for a couple years, it looks like.
Yeah.
So,
But they got name. They got the Ohio, the Oregon State quarterback, the backup
the
or whatever.
Chillis,
So,
yeah.
So that's a big get for them, I think, but to help some continuity with the coaching staff too.
Yeah. The one thing that's interesting with Penn State is the running backs. There could be 7 guys in that room next year on scholarship, and I don't think you can do that because obviously you're going to do everything in your power to hold on to Singleton and Allen. That's a foregone conclusion. Trey Potts technically has a year left. I don't know if you knew this, but he does.
I did. Yes.
Then you have the 2 freshmen who didn't play, Montgomery and is it Cam Smith? I'm pretty sure. God, I can't think of his last name. But yeah, you had the 2 freshmen that came in, and now you are bringing in 2 more guys that are pretty highly, ranked in their own right, and now you're kind of like, we could have 7 guys here if no one transfers out, especially because Quinn Martin, who, top 100 recruit, I think he's still the top player in the state. He's kind of a versatile guy, like could play slot receiver, could do some different things. And apparently he had some interview and he's like, I'm a running back. So I'm kind of down to like 7 true running backs because you also have Corey Smith coming in. So I mean, like, there's no way they go into next year with 7 scholarship running backs. There's just I don't see how you can logistically have that where 7 of your 85 scholarships are dedicated to the running back position.
No, this year they had 5, I guess, right? So the
Yeah.
2 freshmen, Trey Potts, and then the 2 big guys. I wish Trey Potts got a raw deal here. I feel like, right? Like he should have got more run than what he did this year. And
it was Cam Wallace. I was thinking I combined him and Corey Smith, who's coming in this year, but no, it was Cam Wallace. Yeah.
I don't know what motivation Trey Potts has to stay here. Like, and I don't know. I rooted for him. Like he had the longest run of the season, like halfway through the year or something, right? And London Montgomery still coming off an ACL. I don't know how, like, is he going to be that good? He was kind of I don't know. He's from the Poconos, right? So I don't know how well that translates into Big Ten football from a running back standpoint. And I don't know. I think it might be a little bit. I don't know what the word is, but a little bit diluted after you get past Katron and Nick, right? So what is after that? You don't want to use all. You're not going to use all five scholarships on those guys that probably are a little bit middling in terms of talent, frankly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're still going to use Quinn Martin a lot of different ways, and I expect him to burn his red shirt next year, honestly. If it's kick returner, punt returner, getting some time at running back, getting some time in the slot. So it really comes down to what's going to happen with other guys because I do not know. But I'd be surprised if they came into next year with 7 scholarship running backs. But that would just shock me. That's by far the biggest number they've had here under Franklin.
Yeah. And then they have a bunch of wide receivers that might all leave anyway. So it's like, whatever, you're gonna need help, like you said, in slot receiver. But then you're back into Ricky Slade territory where you're taking like your top running back and thinking for a minute that he can be a slot receiver and then never does anything. There was a lot of time Slade doing that.
That's true. Yeah, but we'll see how the next few weeks go with that. But So the college football playoff, Michigan 13-0, the 1 seed. Then you got Washington 13-0, the 2 seed. You got Texas 12-2, the 3 seed. And the 4 seed was 12-1 Alabama, who beat Georgia in the SEC championship game. So Florida State, undefeated 13-0 ACC champions, did not make the college football playoff. And this is probably the most controversial let out since Penn State won the Big Ten in 2016 and didn't make it.
Yeah.
Would you say? I think so. But this
Yeah.
one's way
No,
worse than that. But
yeah, like I was gonna say, that doesn't even compare, right?
no,
Like, we wanted to compare
right.
because Ohio State got in and we beat them head to head, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. But like Florida State didn't lose a game and
Mhm.
beat LSU, right? They won their conference. They've done everything, and their defense
Yeah.
was spectacular.
It was.
And they got left out, and that
Yeah.
is they got completely screwed. I saw a thing that Norvell turned down the Orange Bowl press conference is canceled tomorrow because Norvell
saw that.
or whatever. Like that's not great, but they deserve to be pissed, and like this just proves why a 14 playoff is awful, right? And it was the 1 year. It's almost like it was almost so poetic that it happened right before that. But ESPN, people are saying ESPN had a lot of influence on the decision to put Alabama in and leave Florida State out. And if that's the case, that's bullshit too. There's no way the Florida State should have been left out. People were also saying that if you put Florida State in, somehow Texas would have been left out, right? That like during the vote, during some of the stuff that Texas was the odd team out when Florida State was in, which I also think is ridiculous because they beat Alabama head to head, right? So just terrible. Alabama is probably going to make the finals. I bet they're going to beat Michigan, and they're playing really well right now. And maybe they win the whole thing, and they'll prove that they deserved it, but they shouldn't be in the playoff right now.
No. Yeah, I knew when they beat the number 1 team in the country that was undefeated, they were going to put them in. And then that night, Florida State struggles with Louisville with their 3rd string quarterback. Obviously that was probably going to happen. They still won though. But I don't know if you saw that ESPN claims they don't see the rankings until like it's on the screen or whatever. They say that. Kirk Herbstreit zooms in from his house or whatever, and for like all the weeks that they've had the playoff selection show on every week since the first week when the first rankings come out, the top 4 teams have always been like the 4 helmets behind him on his screen. And apparently like Friday or that week, Florida State was one of the 4 helmets you could see. And then during the selection show, before they showed the 4 teams in the playoff, Florida State was dropped down to like out of view where you could just see the top of it. And the Alabama helmet was brought up into the top 4. So like a little bit of a conspiracy, but it's clear that there definitely is some kind of influence there and they are aware of it beforehand.
Yeah, clearly. Right. It's stupid and they don't deserve to be there. Florida State had the 14th best defense in the country this year, 305 yards allowed. Alabama was 18th, right? So like they're hanging right there. And yeah, they only beat Louisville by 10 with their 3rd string quarterback. But as people were saying, it's not like the 3rd string quarterback is going to be the one that plays in the plays against Michigan, right? The backup dude is going to be back by then because he had a concussion. So they could have figured it out. And like that's really holding it against them far too much, I think. And Florida State's a pretty popular team too, so it's not just about probably views, I guess. I don't know. It's terrible. And
I also think it's probably the death of the ACC because Florida State and Clemson are going to see that and realize we got to get out of here. So I know the 12-team playoff changes things, but they need to understand that there's clearly a bias against them that they're not in the Big Ten or the SEC. So I do think that is a significant blow for the ACC too that this happened because these teams are going to realize they're not getting, the respect they, in this case they definitely deserved. So yeah, that's definitely something I think we're going to see come about in the next few years. But I am a little disappointed because I think it would have been a great year for the 12 team because I thought you had at least 7 or 8 teams that legitimately could have won it all. You know, the 4 teams in Florida State, Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, and then
Yeah.
you start talking about, you know, like Penn State, Ole Miss, those type of schools. So I thought there
Penn
were,
State would have had whom? Oh, they would have had Ohio State, right?
yeah, they would have had to go back to Columbus. Yeah.
So we wouldn't have won a game. There was a time there when like the matchups were favorable for Penn State, and I feel like they could have made it too.
Mhm.
Because if they had like they would have had Florida State in the second round or something, they could have made it to the top 4. But Ohio State would have been a tough road.
Yeah,
So, but
definitely.
yeah, it sucks. Next
Yeah.
year maybe.
Yeah, next year we'll see. So that's gonna do it for this one. I'm just making sure really quick that there's no Manny Diaz news, and I don't see any. So, but
One thing. Everybody, if you have ESPN Plus, the my alma mater, the Kutztown Golden Bears, are in the Division II semifinals this week. So
nice.
they play against Colorado School of Mines at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN Plus. So
It's exciting. Wow, I might have to go down and watch that game.
yeah,
Honestly,
not sure what game Penn State's playing in this weekend, but it's not not the playoffs.
oh my god, that reminds me of like, do you remember that year Pitt made the ACC championship game? They lost to Clemson by like 45 points.
Huh?
And all like the Pitt people were tweeting like, "What time does Penn State
Yeah.
and West Virginia play this week?" And they were like 7-5 and made
Yeah.
It's
It's annoying. So I have a UT hoodie now that I wear to the gym and stuff, and
Mhm.
down here people will like from 50 yards away give you a horns up or a horns down, and so like the A&M people, I like to ask them when they're playing, so I feel like part of the community now. Quite
There you go.
good. Anyway.
Well, that's gonna do it for this one. I guess the next time you hear from us will be the bowl game preview, unless like something really crazy happens with Manny Diaz or the
James Franklin takes
transfer
a huge
portal.
job, and Manny Diaz becomes the Penn State coach. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, that would be something. But yeah, unless something crazy happens, next time you hear from us will probably be for the Peach Bowl preview. I don't know if we're gonna get anyone on here yet or not. I've been looking for Ole Miss people, haven't had any luck yet, but we'll see how that goes. But it's gonna do it for this one. So we will see you most likely for a Peach Bowl preview.